Welcome into Believe in Commanders podcast, part of the Believe Network. We are brought to you by FanDuel and Anthony. After months of torture, the Commanders have ended an 8-game losing streak. First time to celebrate since October 5th when they beat the Los Angeles Chargers. So,
my goodness.
Deep breath, sigh of relief, all that stuff. As you saw yesterday, muscle memory is probably not there anymore of how to finish a game. So it got a little interesting late. Tried to allow the Giants to get back in it. But at the end, a W. And the Commanders at least can say to themselves this year, we are not the worst team in our division, because that, of course, would be the Giants.
My goodness. They made it away. They made it too interesting for me at the end. But, yes, they got themselves a W in that 8-game skid. And my wife was just pointing out. She's like, hey, you actually – my touchdown in 2011 ended a 6-game losing streak.
There you go.
So when we called a touchdown against Seattle, so it's like, yeah, when you win, especially when you have to travel back home, that makes that flight that much easier, even though they may have rode a train, but it makes the travel that much better. Commanders win 29-21. They got themselves to cover that 2.5 point. They were dogged over there at FanDuel. So that was big. Bill would have hit his over on rushing yards. He had 96 of them on the day. Terry McLaurin would have been an anytime touchdown scorer if he would have ran that over there on FanDuel as well. So he said it feels amazing to win a football game. And Marcus Mariota, he said there's nothing like a winning locker room, Scott. I mean, I feel much better right now myself, like talking with you, because it's like, hey, when it's a W, like, hey, the numbers don't much matter. Like, if the score was different and these same stats would come up, we would find something to be pissed off about.
Sure.
We'd be like, well, he needed to do this more. But when you get a W, you can still look at the fact that they only threw it 19 times and say, hey, they got the W. But 37 times rushing the rock. That's what we've been asking for. No Chris Rodriguez, no problem. Big win. I think it's a big win, big for morale. I don't care about the draft picks. I care about the morale of the people in the locker room.
You've been in that world. You've been in that world where you don't care. Like a guy like Antonio Hamilton Sr., right?
Mm-hmm.
Corner yesterday, journeyman.
Hell of a day.
Gets to start, played a great game, made a lot of big plays, was sticky in coverage all day long. For guys like that, they're not concerned about what Adam Peters and the staff are looking to draft. I mean, they're just fighting for their lives. I mean, in the play of this football game, play this game and continue to stay in the league. So you got to give those guys credit. Chris Paul has to slide in for Tunsil at left tackle. Something I don't know if he's ever played left tackle, frankly, with this team. Did a fine job at it. Josh Connerly, the rookie who, he's had some rough moments. He got beat a couple times yesterday. He also fell on 2 fumbles. Like that kind of stuff, like that doesn't get seen, like the hustle play on the Bill fumble. He fell on that. Mariota had another one before the one that cost him. He fell on that. I mean, those are the kind of things that maybe don't always jump out at you during the games, but end up being really important when it's a 1-score game. And of course, Jalen Lane, shows you why they're excited about him as a punt returner. That's a huge game-changing moment before the end of half. And, Mike Sainristil, who has had some really rough moments this year, but has seemed to continue to get back up. Tough dude. Made a huge interception before half as well. Got them 3 by taking that thing. And, so you're happy about that because there's some young guys here. And Ben Sinnott, too. Should have been the game-ending play, frankly, right? That should have been the dagger play, but then they turned it over, the next play. But that should have been the dagger play, by no question. But still, it was good to see him get open and run that route and catch the football. So, I mean, from that end of it, I'm happy because these are guys that are going to be on your team in the future, right? I mean, maybe, Paul's obviously got a contract coming up, but, these other guys will be there. So I was excited to see some of these guys step up in a big way for them yesterday because that's what it's all about in these last few games. Seeing with some of the young core, some of the other guys and the vets, because there's a lot of free agents on this team, Anthony. So from that standpoint, I was happy to see it. And it does, and I think you nailed it for morale, but I also say, I think it does speak about the culture. I know that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but if you have a team that has good culture, you care, you still want to put good product out there. You're not going to be satisfied with just, playing out the string. And I think you saw a lot of that from everybody who suited up yesterday.
Yeah. Beautiful thing about the culture. And when you're looking at a culture in an organization or a team, company, is that the culture carries over year after year after year. That is something that is going to live for the entirety of, this Dan Quinn era as a coach. And from the outside looking in, we only are focusing on one season, right? We're focusing on the results of this 2025 season, and it's not good enough. And they've got 4 wins, and we've got to turn all this stuff around and tear people up. No. The culture in the building is good. The culture is one. Speaking on the post game show with David Harrison, he's talking about, man, the locker room's great. Like everybody's feeling in great mood. Even after the losses, they were still together and they wanted to be there. When you're in a losing locker room and the seasons are gone and the culture is crap in the building, people don't even want to be there. I mean, you may have worked in some environments like that where it's like, all right, man, I'm just gonna go do my job. I just want to do my 8 hours and then get the hell out of there. I don't get that feeling with this team. And it's the culture that's going to take you to the next level next year, and it's going to help them grow. Seeing these young guys make plays, Ben Sinnott, people have been hard on him. We've been hard on him. Glad he got himself a catch. Limited opportunity, but hey, 1 for 1, 36 yards. I love it. Debo was doing his thing. I feel bad for Noah Brown. I do say I feel bad for him getting injured again. That just seems to be the story of his career, his season. And the one thing I want him to do is just get completely healthy. And it's not just like a specific injury. It's like everything. Yeah. You got to let your body get back into balance, because if you have an injury here, you overcompensate on this other side, and then that causes a deficiency and an injury on this side. So you're just going to ping pong back and forth. So hopefully he gets himself a good, healthy offseason and he can come back. But this was a good performance for the team, a good performance of depth. I think it helps answer some questions. Maybe like Mikey Sanders still may need to be a starting outside corner in this upcoming draft. Him and Trey Amos, they could be the guys. Now you focus on the inside, finding yourself a new slot. So I think you're definitely answering a lot of questions. It's going to bring up some more questions as well, but I think it helps clarify some things, on what your roster can look like, Scott, just going forward. And a big one is seeing 17 get in the end zone. Just to know that he can still do it. He can still be effective regardless of who's throwing the rock. He's somebody that they can go to each time they can count on.
He made an incredible catch, too, on the sideline earlier in the game. It was like a 15-yard play. It may not, but it moved the change. It looked like there's no way he could have gotten in bounds, and the team went fast on the next play because nobody was sure he got in bounds. And sure enough, they showed the replay, and he got in bounds. And like, it's like you're watching, you're like, how the heck did he toe tap that thing and catch the ball? I mean, it wasn't a great thrown ball, and he just corrected it. It was awesome. So, yeah, he's been really good these last 3 weeks. I mean, you've really felt Terry McLaurin's presence, which is great because that's what you paid him the money for. And it'll be cool when you get to see him and JD5 at it. But I want to go back to something that you hit on about culture and about, carrying over and those type of things. This is probably the worst Commander season I can ever remember where there wasn't like a weekly story of some sort, somebody getting their agenda out in the locker room, whether it be a player, a front office member, a head coach, a coordinator. The Shanahans were famous for that. They were the chief operating blaming officers when they were there. They'd love to just throw people under the bus. And it was bad, man. There was some really nasty stuff written over those years. It was always national news, no matter how bad they were. Remember, we had coaches shows with Coach Shanahan every Friday, and he was shocked when we would argue with him about the fact that this happens all over the NFL when teams lose. There's these stories that come out. And I said, actually, no, that's not true. I said, there's a lot of places where they lose in peace, or suck in peace, as I called it at the time to him. And he looked at me like I was out of my mind. I'm like, no, seriously, this is really, and then of course, all this stuff's coming from the house, like these things. And of course, that's a Dan Snyder run organization, the whole story. But, Mike played into it, like he put his stuff out. They put their stuff out. It was awful. So, like, this has been kind of the refreshing thing. And I think this is about Josh Harris. And even when Rivera, his last season with Josh Harris on the team, they were terrible. But there wasn't, like, any crazy stuff, going on. Although Ron did say some crazy things that we jumped on. But it wasn't like, it was coming from the top. You know what I mean? So that part of it, and I know it maybe it's just a small thing. And people are like, oh, who cares if you're losing, if people – handle it the right way. But I think it is important because I do think people from the outside look at that, and players look at that, agents look at that. Like, you don't want to be part of an organization that throws their own guys under the bus consistently for self-preservation. So I do feel like even though this year has been awful and painful because there were such high expectations and hopes, I think that is a positive step and says a lot about the ownership, number one. Number two, Dan Quinn as a head coach and a leader of men. And Adam Peters, too, because Adam Peters has been consistent. I know this frustrates a lot of guys in the media. He didn't talk to anybody. He literally talks to nobody. He's not trying to sell his agenda, trying to excuse make. And I've been around a lot of GMs, other sports, too, that are great at this, like telling you, like, the coach screwed this up or whatever. It's not me, right? Like, I drafted this guy. It's not my fault, But I do think in the big picture, moving forward, this is a very good sign in year 3 of this ownership group that here we are having a terrible year. Everybody's mad and upset and whatever, but nobody's lashing out and trying to be, hey, it wasn't me. Nobody's running for cover, like point at this guy, trying to point fingers. I do find that to be valuable. We'll see if it is in the long haul.
I think so. I think it will be because if in every story arc, there's going to be some point of adversity that you have to face. And they've had some adversity on the field. They've had adversity, mostly it's been all on the field, right? Injuries and then just not availability. In the past, it's always been legal issues and government, this and all that. Like, that's some serious stuff. Nobody else has to deal with that. Like, you kidding me? Now there's brighter roads ahead. And, there's things that you get to look forward to. And you have to go through a couple of storms before you get there, man. Yeah, you got to have a couple of, of rough moments. But once again, hey, maybe it's great it all happened in 1 year, right? You get to have a whole year of just immaculate success, getting all the way to the NFC Championship game, the group chat going crazy. They're like, yeah, you know what? We did get to go all the way to the NFC Championship game, and we really weren't that good at, like, there was some of the fans are coming to this realization of where the team is, where they were before, how special that was, then where they are now, and then kind of like the injuries are the wild card. Right, you throw that injury bug on any NFL team, and it's just like throw their season down the drain. Your team did that. Now you get to see what they do next year. You can see these young guys build and grow. So I'm excited for it. What was your biggest play from the game? I could say, or the biggest, most impactful thing from the game in your estimation.
Well, I did think the play, like obviously Jalen Lane before halftime was huge, but I thought Mariota hitting McLaurin on what was a 1st and 20. Okay, it was a 1st and 20. They had back-to-back procedural penalties, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you doing here? Like, you're, like, you have a chance to put this team away, and you're going backwards. You had good field position, and then to fix it, right, by just bam, hitting that big play, and then Terry makes 2 guys miss, like, around the 5. That was obviously the game. That was really the dagger of the game, even though it looks closer in the end because of a couple, because of the fumble and the miscue there. But I thought that was huge. And again, that's why you have Terry McLaurin. That's why you paid him. He is a difference maker. And I just thought that was cool. And it was a good ball by Marcus and even a better play for the receiver. So I thought that was, the play of the game where I go, all right, they've got this. Although then the next, like, with about 3 minutes left, they tried to prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, they tried to prove me wrong after that.
They definitely did try to make it a little bit too close. I had a note over here looking at, like, the injuries kind of showed up again.
Yeah.
Obviously Noah Brown out, Laramie Tunsil went out with a shoulder and oblique. Eddie Goldman was in the concussion. Looking at the concussion they held, and that on that same play, that's when Jackson Dart came out. Here's what I want to ask you: when are these coaches going to understand that you're gonna have to find a way to protect your quarterbacks? Right, Jackson Dart running midline into 900 pounds of human being is not protecting your quarterback. You know what I mean? Like that, they should take that out. Mike Kafka, take it out. No,
it's terrible.
Man. Get it out of here. That's bad, man. You got to get your
here's
kid
what's
hurt.
Interesting, right? As much as we have consternation here with Jaden's injuries this year, knock on wood, they have not been, both years have not been head injury variety, right? Like, he's avoided those kind of hits. And I think, to Cliff's credit, when they do run him, it's the perimeter, right? So he has the option to get out of bounds. If he pulls it, stay away from the traffic. When he's gotten himself in trouble, obviously, is in the scramble plays this year. The Packers game obviously comes to mind. The only one he really sort of got hurt in the pocket was the Cowboys game with the groin. Because he kind of hung on the ball too long and tried to extend that play. But for the most part, they've been out of pocket situations and scrambles, not designed runs, right? Mm-hmm. And so those are the things that, you look at. and with Jackson Dart's situation where he has been in the concussion tent more times than he's thrown touchdowns, I think at this point. It's amazing how many times he's been in there. Like that should be a prop on FanDuel every week. FanDuel should have that up there. Over under Jackson Dart concussion tent, or like what quarter, anytime Jackson Dart concussion tent. And I'm not trying to be funny, but he's just reckless, man. I mean, but yesterday I don't feel like he was as reckless as the Giants were in terms of some of the play calls. And Jonathan Vilma, to his credit on Fox, laid it out a bunch of times. He's like, what are we doing here to this kid? Like, this isn't part of development. Like, at this point, it's all about development, putting him in situations, but also protecting him. And, to his credit, he slid feet first once yesterday when he was out in open space, and probably, a few weeks ago would have tried to, be essentially Cam Scattaboo, but he didn't. So that was a good thing on his part. But yeah, I mean, that guy got a lot of talent. You can see the leadership and why the team rallies around him. We still haven't seen him a very long period of time with Malik Neighbors and obviously Scattaboo. So they got some young pieces, and they're in a great spot. They're going to pick potentially number one. They don't have to pick a quarterback. They in theory have a number one receiver once he's healthy again, for sure, because I think the guy showed that last season when he played most of the year. And then, you feel pretty good about their running back. So they can really – maybe fortify that O-line, maybe some other positions on defense. They should have enough pass rush help, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter finally showed up yesterday again.
Yeah.
So that was a good sign.
He did in full force too. It makes it. If y'all hadn't listened, go back and listen to the last episode of Believe in Commanders. We had Steve Trout over there from Hard Knocks, and they're obviously doing NFC East Hard Knocks. So just talking about the Giants a little bit, and obviously we're facing all these teams. It's going to be a really interesting finish to the year. And then the one thing I was discussing, I'll ask you, is obviously Jaden's going to probably play at some point. He's going to play at some point. And I feel like if you're going to play him, even though I'm still, leave him on the side, don't play him, but I know they're going to put him out there. I think it's going to be Christmas. That's the day that I have circled, simply because I don't think you're going to do a short week, Right, you play on Saturday, and then you're going to turn around on Christmas. So I think he probably comes out there on Christmas, and then maybe plays the last game of the year. What do you think? Yeah,
that's interesting. I was thinking about that as well. With this, now granted, it's not a short week for him because he didn't play, and he was really practicing. I don't know if we talked about this last week. I think we did on Friday. They were really putting him through some stuff on that side field. It wasn't your typical, injured guys are over here tossing it around, working at. They were like swatting at his arm and stuff, and he was running and throwing hard, and then he was going through the individual drills like a guy who expects to play again soon. So, look, there's a lot of ways you could play it. I mean, do you feel like that last Philly game will probably be meaningless for Philly? I would guess it will be, because they'll have the division wrapped up at that point, right? Like in that game, you might be playing the Eagles 2s in Week 18 in Philly. The Dallas game, I think we'll know probably by this afternoon. I don't know, whenever this Dan Quinn thing happens, he'll have, he'll tell you, I think, a lot about their plan this week, whether or not he plays at all. Because I think if they're going to let it be Mariota and like save him for Christmas, I think they're just going to tell you early. I don't think there's any real upside in playing it out this week unless you're ready to just clear him and let him get back at it. So I honestly, I'd like to see him play all three, but I also understand if they wait till the Dallas game on the 25th, and then it would be the Eagles game. He'll have a little bit extra time for that last week of the season to get him the final two in that way. But I do want him to, most importantly, whenever it is, just be able to finish the game upright, show us. And that's on Kingsbury too. The game plan he had yesterday against the Giants, and I get it. It was the Giants, and they're terrible against the run. You can run on the Eagles. You can run on the Cowboys. We've seen it. I mean, you can run on those teams. This offensive line right now is playing at a high level. Yeah. They are blowing people up. When they get the opportunity to move forward, they're certainly much better. So I feel like no matter when you play Jaden, it's got to be more like yesterday's game plan. But obviously, with his elite ability to throw the football, well, at least what we saw last year, he hasn't really had that kind of game this year. Outside of the Charger game, he hit some big ones. But I'd like to see that guy, again, and then do that. But I don't need to see him dropping back 40 times, right? I don't want to see that at all. I would like to see, a good balance of the run pass and a little bit less of the quarterback having to be the run threat, maybe more of the decoy run threat, and again, when he does run, get him to safe place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's 37 rushing attempts. That'll work for me. You be
Right, right.
selective, about how you roll them out there, be selective about the plays that are called, and understand that the run is going to set up that pass. I think, I don't know. We've seen in the history in the past, there's been more passing attempts, but we'll see we'll see how it rolls out. I was trying to see what the line is up here.
5.5. The FanDuel 5.5 for the Eagles. Of course, for the Eagles, they can win the division on Saturday. Like, they can put the division to bed with a win at Northwest Stadium. And I feel like we've been in this spot before when the Eagles can come in and celebrate with their fans, but they can put it to bed. The Cowboys obviously left the door open for them with that loss last night. So the Eagles can have it wrapped up by Saturday, around 8:30 if they take care of business against the Commanders.
Okay, then. All right. So, well, I don't know, man. Is that loss? The Cowboys loss really threw me off because I thought that they were gonna, beat Minnesota and then kind of find a way to, put up a fight towards the end of the year. But that loss, that stinks it up. Make it easy for these birds. Annoying.
Big step backwards for them. It was surprising. And to see Brandon Aubrey miss 2 kicks was like, what happened to this guy? He was the one thing you could count on if you're a Cowboys fan. And he missed his 2 kicks last night. And, that's not him. It was a weird night. And give Kevin O'Connell credit in Minnesota. They've rallied nicely since the being shut out. Last night, McCarthy made some really good throws. They did some good things for him. So I was impressed with the way they handled it. And I like their defense. I love Brian Flores, man. He just comes after you.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to finish it out, but let's get this thing closed out before the rest of the week. We got to hear from Dan Quinn. We got to figure out who is going to be under center for the Commanders this Saturday against the Eagles. And I'm going to be up there. I'm going to the game, Scott.
Awesome.
I'll be there. So all
right. You and a lot of Philly people have a feeling, unfortunately, but that's good. I'm glad that you'll be there. We'll hopefully have an Eagles guest later this week to preview it. But thanks for joining us. Good to have a Victory Monday. It's been too long. Hopefully more before this year is over. For Anthony Armstrong, Scott Jackson's a Believe in Commanders podcast. We are brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Believe Network. We'll talk to you later this week and preview the Eagles matchup.